Welcome into Saratoga Saturdays. I'm Anita Marks. He's Jonathon Kinchen. He's the star of our show, and what a huge show this is going to be. Of course, it is Travers weekend, and we've got 13 races on this card, and 6 of them are Grade 1 races. So I know it's been a fun month at Saratoga. It all comes down to this weekend. And I'm excited for this show. Listen, you and I have been talking about it. I know it's a bucket list, right? To not only just be in Saratoga for the month of August, but let alone be at the racetrack for the Travers. And so I'm going to be living vicariously through you today, my friend.
That's fine with me. The weather's going to be outstanding. We've had to dodge some days. It's been a little bit frustrating. We've lost, I think, maybe 40 turf races so far this year, but nothing beats the Midsummer Derby and the Travers. It's slowly become one of my favorite days of the entire year.
I'm definitely going to be there next year, and you can count on that. So hopefully we're doing the show together next year at the same location. By the way, before we start breaking down the races, want to remind you, go to ABR and download their Stay Lucky app. You can play the races for free. So America's Best Racing, it's their contest app, and the more you win, the horses you pick that you win on a streak, you have a chance of winning $1 million. So make sure you do that. It's kind of a fun way to follow the races today and for you to make money even without having to put any money down. All right, Jonathon, let's start with race number 7. Okay, the Ballerina, scheduled post time at 3:02 Eastern. Let's talk about the one horse, Gamine.
Yeah, look, she's outstanding. She burst onto the scene last year as a 3-year-old. She had 2 unbelievable performances in New York. She went on to win the Filly and Mare Sprint, and then she's come back and kind of done the same thing. She's just so talented. The problem is being drawn down towards the inside is not ideal, and she is probably facing one of the horses that I think is the only one that can really combat against her talent in this division, and that's the 7 CC to her outside. So although Gamine is a superstar and a very likely winner, if anyone's going to beat her, I think it could be CC. CC trained by Michael McCarthy. She's drawn towards the outside, which I think is kind of an advantageous situation for her because her main rival is Gamine. She can sit outside of her, and it doesn't have to be forced to make decisions like Gamine's going to have to from the inside.
So how are you playing this?
So today, strictly for me, every single one of my dollars will go through this pick 6, the dollar pick 6. There's a carryover from yesterday, and all of my money will be going through the pick 6. So I won't be playing any win bets on a big day like this.
Okay, let's jump to the 8th race, and this is scheduled for 3:37 p.m. Really, everything I'm reading, it seems like it's the most wide open race of all the Grade 1s. Let's talk about the 7th horse. That's who you like, right?
Yeah, the 7 Yalpon. This is a horse that was really talented as a 3-year-old, showed a lot of promise, was running really fast numbers, and then had to take a long break after the Breeders' Cup. He actually ended up being the favorite as a 3-year-old in the Breeders' Cup Sprint when Vacoma scratched the morning of with a fever. He became the favorite. He didn't run particularly well, but then he had some time off all the way until July. He had a comeback race. He ran well in that comeback race. I expect him to take another step forward. I like where he's drawn towards the outside. He's tactical. He doesn't have to he can make his own trip. And I do think that he is an interesting proposition. But like you said, this is the most challenging race, I think, in the sequence where if you're playing the pick 6, I'll be using a ton of horses, including the 8 Firenze Fire. Look, he wins a lot of races at Belmont, and I know people think that there's this he can only win at Belmont deal. I just don't think it's true. I think it's circumstantial. I think the horse can run anywhere, and I think his price will reflect that today because I think most people think he's a Belmont horse.
I root for Firenze Fire with my heart, as I've said before on the show. Mr. Maury Stables, Ron is a very dear friend of mine, and he's a mensch. Cannot be a nicer person on the planet than Ron. So I'm going to be rooting for Firenze Fire as well. The 9th race, the Jerkens Memorial, post time 4:12 p.m. 2 horses that everybody loves in this race, just because they've got so much speed. Let's start with the 2-horse, Jackie's Warrior.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Travers is obviously the highlight of the day, but to be fair, this little small field is one that I can't wait to see. You're right. The 2, Jackie's Warrior, has turned out to be an outstanding sprinter. and is definitely the leader in the clubhouse, is the best sprinter in his division as a 3-year-old. And he's actually a horse that I think we could possibly see show up in a race like the Breeders' Cup Sprint down the line, facing some of the horses we just talked about in the Forego. The only problem with Jackie's Warrior is that he hasn't really ever had a really, really good horse run at him at any point of his races. So he's very confident on the lead. He goes fast, don't get me wrong, and he finishes up his races. His speed figures are really good for a 3-year-old, but the problem is that there's a horse drawn to his outside that I think might be a little bit better, and that's the 6 Life is Good. This is a horse that was on the Derby trail. He was the early Kentucky Derby favorite, and then he got injured. He had some time off, and now he's back, and he's switching to Hall of Famer Todd Pletcher's barn. And these horses work out in the morning. They go around there, and a lot of people pay attention to those works, and the work reviews on Life is Good are outstanding. It seems like he's sitting on a big performance. He was running faster numbers than Jackie's Warrior was early in his 3-year-old year. You got to think he's going to improve, and I like his draw outside of Jackie's Warrior rather than being inside of him. I think that's going to help him out quite a bit too. So although I wouldn't be surprised if Jackie's Warrior wins, Life is Good is probably my biggest opinion of the entire weekend.
Just out of curiosity, do you make your way to the track in the morning? Do you watch these trainers and do you watch them train these horses and work with these horses leading up to these races?
Yeah, no, I go hang out, but I'm not really there doing research. I'm just hanging out. It's fun. It's relaxing. It's calming. You get to see some of the superstars of the game, the riders, the trainers, and so I enjoyed going. But I can assure you that all I know is if they have 4 legs and a tail, I don't really know what I'm looking at, just to a certain extent.
Johnny M says he loves Life is Good today. So that should be a really fun race. Race number 10, the Personnel Ensign, scheduled again 4:47 post time. There's a 5-year-old lady, Latruska. I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. Now 4 of 5 on the year and 15 of 20 in her career. You like her a lot heading into this race, right?
Yeah, she's a really cool horse. She's won on 3 different racetracks in a row, big races. She beat Monomoy Girl, who's a champion in her own right. And she does it a little bit like our friend Nick's Go did last week or a couple weeks ago in the Whitney. She goes out to the front end and she runs them off their feet, puts a lot of pressure on these horses to try to keep up with her early, but then she finishes her races as well. She seems to be training well in the morning. I think she's going to be really hard to beat, but you can't ignore horses like the 4 Swiss Skydiver. She ran in the Whitney against the boys last time. I did not think she was going to run well. I felt like that was a prep for this race. She actually ran pretty good. I think she's going to have another step forward. I think she's a horse that could beat Latruska, but they're going to all have to bring their running shoes because Latruska lays it down early.
But listen, I've been a huge Swiss Skydiver fan from last year. I made some good coin on her. But what do you think that has been the biggest difference from her as a 3-year-old, of course, getting a lot of buzz and not as successful as a 4-year-old?
Well, she just had some unlucky situations. She comes back at Oaklawn Park. She runs at St. Anita, runs well, runs at Oaklawn Park, runs into Latruska and Monomoy Girl, kind of has a weird trip that day. And then there was a virus going around Kenny McPeak's barn, so she had to scratch out of a race. She had to wait an extra week and run in the Whitney against the boys. I just think she's had a lot of tricky things going on throughout her year. But I do think the best performance that we'll see from her this year will be what she does today.
All right, race number 11, the Sword Dancer. I kind of like that name. 5:25 is post time. There is a horse named Gufo that you have your eyes on.
Yeah, I like Gufo in here. Gufo tipped his hand at being a really good horse last year as a 3-year-old when that group of 3-year-old turf horses ended up being a pretty darn good one. Colonel Liam won the Pegasus World Cup turf, was in that race with Gufo. Also, Domestic Spending, who's arguably the best turf horse in America, was in that race with Gufo. So we had an idea that he had some talent. I think he likes these longer distances, and he needs a little bit of pace to close into. They need to run in front of him a little bit, and I think they will. The one, Tribuven, he doesn't have to make the front, but he wants the front. Channel Maker absolutely wants the front. In fact, he resents not being on the front. And then Moretti, a horse trying the turf for the first time, you got to think they're going to be forward with him. So I think Gufo is going to get the pace that he needs to close into. And I think it'll be a fair price as well.
Do you think the one horse Tribuven?
Tribuven, yeah.
Right. A lot of people think he has the potential to go wire to wire. Do you?
Well, I think that he absolutely has the potential, but it's going to depend on what happens with Channel Maker. Like I said, if you watch Channel Maker's races, he resents not making the front. Last time they set him off the pace, he threw his head the entire time, wasn't comfortable. I feel like they have to let him roll and let the chips lie where they fall, and I just feel like he's going to go to the front, or at least try to go to the front, and I think that's why it could cook up for both of them and help out a closer like Gufo, maybe even a horse like the 6 Japan.
All right, drum roll, please. We've finally arrived to race number 12, the Travers. Everybody's been waiting for. Post time is at 6:12 p.m. and Essential Quality is getting all the love. Listen, I it's interesting. People who have seen this horse, I have not seen this horse with my own bare eyes, but people who have say that he is an absolute beast. You like Essential Quality? Tell me all the reasons why.
Yeah, Essential Quality showed how talented he was as a 2-year-old when he was our 2-year-old champion. And it's not very often that 2-year-old champions go on to be, great 3-year-olds. It's very similar to the best quarterback in 7th grade, where all the other kids catch up to him by the time they get to high school. That happens often in racing as well. But what's special about Essential Quality is that he's a champion as a 2-year-old, and he's doing it again as a 3-year-old. I think he was the best horse in the Kentucky Derby. He proved that he was the best 3-year-old in the Belmont. And then he came back in the Jim Dandy going 1 1/8 as a prep race for this race. The longer, the better for Essential Quality. He'll go 1 1/4 today. The other thing about Essential Quality is that he was wide all the way around there in the Jim Dandy, losing tons of ground. So although the finishing margin might seem a little bit tighter than some might think, the horse that ran second, Keep Me in Mind, saved all the ground up the inside, had a perfect trip. I think Essential Quality is to take another step forward, and I think he'll win this Run Happy Travers. He's so talented. And like you said, he is a monster. Beautiful horse, though.
Okay, so explain to me, as you know, I live in the New Jersey area, but I have, my 12 years that I've lived here in the Northeast, I've been fortunate enough to become quite friendly with a lot of horse owners and just a lot of guys that just like love the track. And so this week, texting with a lot of them, I feel like predominantly a lot of guys and gals are on Dynamic One and feel that Dynamic One can upset Essential Quality today. If you can, give me some insight on that. And why do you think so many people that I know that are really big into racing are all over Dynamic One today? Well,
part of that reason is there's this ridiculous notion that you can't bet on favorites. And so I think a lot of time what happens is people, they see the obvious, but they want to be they want to try to have a differing opinion. So they start trying to think of another horse, and Dynamic One is a very easy one to say, oh, this is who I think is going to win. Sure. I wouldn't be shocked if he won. He's a talented racehorse. He's trained by a Hall of Famer in Todd Pletcher. The horse seemed to be improving, but on pure handicapping, he got an absolutely perfect trip last time, sitting right in behind Miles D. Is one of IRAD's greatest rides of this entire meet. And so you don't want to take horses off of good trips against horses that are better than them because it never tends to work out. Now, sure, like I said, he can win. The one thing he also has against him is that a lot of times upsets come from race dynamics. If something different in the race happens that was unexpected, and then a horse can take advantage of that because they have some type of pace edge. Dynamic One basically has a similar style. If not, he's going to have to try to pass Essential Quality, and I just don't see that happening. Look, he might, but I think Essential Quality is going to be hard to beat. If someone's going to beat Essential Quality, to me it feels like a horse like Midnight Bourbon, who could be loose on the lead, or Masked Parade, who could be loose on the lead if one of those horses try to go to the front.
Yeah, a lot of people like Midnight Bourbon, as well as Dennis, of course, who's sending messages to us on the show. All right, that sums it up. Any final thoughts? I know we're going to see you on Fox later on this afternoon, which is always great.
Yeah, like I said, I'm excited about this all Grade 1 Pick 6. It starts in race 7. It's not too often you get all Grade 1 races in a Pick 6 sequence, so that'll be fun. Also, like you said, we're on Fox. Usually we're on FS1 and FS2. The Travers show is on Fox, like Big Fox.
Big time. Like you're big time.
Exactly.
Today.
Exactly. So okay. I think it starts at 5:30. I could be wrong about that. Maybe it's 5. I think it's 5 to 6:30. That's what it is. 5 to 6:30.
Fantastic. I can't wait to see your big hair and your bougie shirts that you wear. I love it. Also, just a reminder, I'm going to be hosting on 98.7 ESPN today, like I always do, the Anita Marks show from noon to 3. But from noon to 1, we're going to have a special Travers show brought to you by America's Best Racing. Dan Torgman will join me as well as Tom Lewis. So by all means, please tune into that. As soon as it's over at 1 o'clock, we will also post it as a podcast on ABR as well as my social media at Anita Marks. Hey, listen, great job. I can't wait for today. It's an exciting day at Saratoga. I love doing this show with you. Thank you so much. Everybody, good luck betting today and enjoy the races.
It's America's original sport, and no one covers it better than americasbestracing.net. From the sport to the lifestyle, the best races, horses, and destination venues, cocktails, gambling, fashion, and more. americasbestracing.net is a sport for you. Live it, love it,